All right, family, we got Eric Ford in the convo room today. I am so excited for this conversation because, every now and then you need to be able to geek out on marketing or all things content. And Eric just has a bright mind for just seeing what's happening in the marketplace. He has a resume that rivals any marketing person that you probably connected to on your LinkedIn. But beyond that, in the few moments that we've gotten to talk before this recording, I can tell that he's a great person as well. So, with him being a champion of so many other people, I cannot wait to champion the great things that he's doing. Eric, welcome to Convo Room.
Hey, nice to be here.
Yes. So, look, let's just get into it. Explain to people who have no idea what integrated marketing is, who have no idea what somebody like you does behind the scenes to connect brands and their audiences. What is it that you do?
Yeah, so it's funny because I don't have a particular title. Maybe it is integrated marketing or maybe it's integrated comms. I've seen so many things, there's so many different job titles out there, but essentially what I do is being able to bridge the gap between consumer, creator, influencer, and brand. I normally do that through a communications lens. So whether it is through brand comms and PR, influencer marketing, the newest thing that people are all about is community and brand advocacy. And then even through like social impact and things like that of that nature though too. I've been finding ways to bridge those gaps for consumers to really see what brands are doing, not just through their product, but how they invest in the community around them as well. So that has been like my journey through all the roles I've had, and it's been kind of a great experience. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious, how did you find your way into this space? Did you always want to do it, or did you kind of just stumble your way into it?
I think it kind of started when I was in seventh grade. I always knew that I wanted to be a writer in a form of just telling stories. And so from then, seventh grade into on, I was like, I'm going to put myself in writing programs. I'm going to be a part of the newspaper. I'm going to do news. I'm going to be a part of the yearbook, things like that nature. So I did that in middle school, high school, even college. I was getting paid, and I was the managing and fashion editor there. But in that time in college, I started to stumble upon social media and what it means to create content there and the short form of writing and what that looks like for copy. And I was like, I think I'm falling in love with this a little bit more. Also, I thought I was going to be a writer at Vogue. I'm clearly not a writer at Vogue, but that was just the dream that I had.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming from Houston, Texas. So I when I fell into social media, I was like, oh, this is such an untapped market to really do the cool things that I'm already doing with telling stories, but now I can do this in a visual setting and I understand like how to bring some aesthetics and moves together. And that along with the writing I was doing, I think that kind of propels me into a new format. At that time, influencer marketing wasn't even here, so I was doing work with like brands and kind of bringing them close to bloggers who were like the OGs of being influencers. They had super impact and working with PR spaces and publications and stuff, and then it just started becoming a thing that I did all these things at once and I was really good at it. But I think it really came from my foundation in journalism, my foundation in creative writing. It kind of sparked like this thing of how to really tell brand stories and what does that look like and then kind of cultivate it into a digital space as well.
Mm. So I feel like a lot of people who are trying to find their way through the creator economy, they really have those building blocks. They may not have formally gone to school for journalism, have a background in marketing, but they love telling stories.
Yeah.
And whether that leads you to, doing marketing, doing film, or whatever the case might be, there's something about telling a story your own way that hooks people in. That number one, it allows people to be seen, but also I think it provides an opportunity for companies who are serving the same audience to really have that symbiotic relationship to where creators can be supported
Yeah.
because of the audiences that they reach. And so with your experience with influencer marketing, I'm really curious, how do you find well, not even content, how do you find creators that you feel like, this is somebody that I need to tap to just get involved with this particular initiative or this project that we have going on because they can really help us reach who we're trying to reach. Like, what do you see? What do you notice? What are the signals that you pick up to say, I got to reach out?
Yeah. For me, I'm a person that likes to own his own thing. So because of that, I understand what things might look surface and what things actually look like. This is something to talk about. I think there's so many creators out there. The world is very saturated, and they're all doing the same things. We're doing Get Ready with Me. We're talking about our top 5 products or things like that. And I think those things are great. Those are surface level content that anyone can create and anyone can make. What makes the content worse is how you tell that story of your first 5 products. Why are these your first top products? Why are you writing the things that you're doing when it comes to your Get Ready with Me? Some people now are doing Get Ready with Me, but then they're telling a totally different story that has nothing to do with the clothes or nothing like that. But people are in tune, but they're also watching the clothes that you're wearing as well. I think it's people who know how to go deeper than the surface and start exposing who they are, being a little bit more vulnerable. And it's not you got to tell your deepest, darkest secrets, but it's allowing people to come in to see who you truly are and the things that you care about. Even if the story that you're telling is fiction, and we all read fiction books, we all love fantasy, but it's something that captivates people to be a part of something. And I think that's the best thing about it. When your stories and the things that you do are able to create an ecosystem, something that makes people want to fall in and sit down and watch, that is what's going to captivate. And I think that's what I look for in creators, though, too. People who are telling unique stories that are filling in gaps that people are not talking about, owning a lane that people might not think about, or they're doing something that people might be like, oh, this is not it. But for some reason, I have a knack for seeing that as well. I have a knack for seeing something that's special in somebody else, though, too. And I don't think it's something that everybody has. I'm both about that. So, it's something that I use a lot, and I say, can see this now. No, these other people can see this, but I see this. But it has always worked in my it always worked in my benefit, but it also worked in the brand's benefit that I worked with before though too. So it's just seeing what is out there or the potential that what someone can do, and then cultivating that in a way for them to be their best selves as well. So yeah.
That really, I want to double click on that because I feel like somebody hearing that, it's very easy to hear like, okay, we want to go beneath the surface. We
Yeah.
want to own a lane. And I think we might picture that, especially, I can just think about so many times when I was early on, like building a newsletter. And, when you try to pick a niche and you really commit to it. And then you realize later on, you're like, I need to pivot because this really isn't me.
Yeah.
And you really find you finally find your voice. And
Mhm.
that is the thing that resonates. And you realize that for me, it was when people started replying and saying, hey, like this really like hit with me today, or this is exactly what I needed to hear. But sometimes on social media, it takes a while to get that traction,
Definitely.
especially if you're starting from zero, or if you really don't necessarily have a base of support already. And then if you try to then monetize early on through brand deals or brand opportunities,
Mhm.
it can be like you're just shooting in the dark. So like give some examples of creators. I mean, even if you wanted to name check some people like that are really inspiring to you, or people that caught your attention, and why.
Yeah. So there's a couple that I really love a lot. I'll say I'm like a little bit more friends with the like fiance, the wife more of the show, but her name is Skylar and her newly fiance is Timmy. They are amazing because their foundation of the content that they create um is it's like rooted in their love with each other and how they um kind of champion each other in a way, but then they also are able to have their own pieces of content separately, and you can still feel that love and support that is there. But also they're so creative and imaginative and know how to create a world in the space that they're able to have. They transform their apartment. They go to studios to change these things. And I know that could be also a privilege, but it's about the mindset that they have and a story that they tell, the things that they do and how they tell that story. And it feels like an embellished like world of fantasy, but it always feels like that it's rooted in something that is conversational, something that people want to respond to, as you said, but also you can tell that they know who they are as well. I think, it's two-way street. People can love the things that you do and they might comment on it, but if you as the creator don't feel it, then ultimately it's not going to work. So it has to be both. It has to be something that brings people in, but you have to also believe it as well. And once you believe it, then the content feels better as well though too, because it exudes that confidence, it exudes that space. And I know it's, but that energy thing matters, because if you don't have that energy, then no one's going to gravitate to your content, or they're going to be there for a small time, but they won't be there for a long time, I'll say.
Hmm. For some reason, I think we might be having some connectivity issues, but I still can hear you very well. Can you hear me? Okay, good. So we're just gonna keep going.
Okay, great.
And it's coming back. So I really want to take what you said and like almost like just take a different vantage point because we're talking about creators and individuals. I think a lot of the people who probably are following you on LinkedIn and people that I'm just kind of starting to see respond to content even on the platform, they are people within organizations and they've got to figure out how to get that know like and trust factor to a consumer brand, or sometimes even it might be a brand but you might be new and it's a startup and you're trying to disrupt and do something different. How do you feel like people can be authentic in connecting, because I mean you've got experience both through social at smaller outfits, through legacy brands, like how would you approach now, like as someone within a company, to say, hey, this is how we're going to build community, or this is how we're going to really just cut through a lot of really competitive creative out here. I mean, I think everybody's creative now. Everybody's using AI. Everybody's doing the thing. So if you are sitting at the helm of a new campaign, what's the first thing that you're looking at to do to really engage people?
Yeah, I think first is always looking at the data first. It's one, understanding how campaigns have played in the past, and looking at those metrics and seeing what has worked, what hasn't, what do we want to improve upon. And then there's also paying to the metrics of the thing that you're trying to tap into now. Every campaign is not going to be the same. So you have what happened before from a brand standpoint of, okay, this is what we did, this is what we resulted into, and then now we're trying to get into the new space. So what's happening in this new space right now that we can really talk about, that we can own as a brand? What do the metrics say about this? What are the audience and viewership within there? And then comparing that to who our true audience is, and does our true audience, resonate with these things as well, though, too. And then I think that gives you the foundation to know, like, this is where we should go. But I think the second part is not only knowing data, but it's also being a part of culture as well. There's people that are at brands that they say they tap into culture, but really you see this, you go to this place, you do something with it, and then you leave. Tapping into culture is more than just using something for your one campaign. It's embodying that throughout your brand for longevity. And consumers and viewers and readers know that. So they can see if you dip your toe into something and come back. A lot of people use and this is so long ago, but like when Miley was like in her rap phase, and we all love Miley Cyrus. I definitely love her, but there was a moment in time frame she decided to dip herself into Black culture, and when she said, "Oh, I'm about to leave now," everybody was like, "Oh, we thought you was here to stay." But it shows how
Yeah.
people, I think in language terms, it really shows how you just tapping into something and then leaving when it's beneficial for you is not how you're supposed to do certain things. A brand's supposed to tap into culture that aligns to who they are, because then that means that you're doing it organically. It's something that has to happen organic for your brand to work. That's how you find the right creators. You build the right content, and you foster the right community. That's all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's really sound advice. There are a couple of things. You know what? We're gonna double click because I feel like the conversation has to be had, and it's Black History Month. Okay, it's February, so we got to talk about tapping into culture and the downside of the exit, because I think there are cautionary tales now. And I think Target is definitely one of them, where I think there's so much potential when brands embody the sentiment of a community. I recall early on when Target was really engaging a lot of like Black founders and Black
Mm-hmm.
businesses. And I think it really gave a sense of visibility. Um, because I mean, I think back in the day, I don't know if you felt like this when you were a kid. I remember my mom would like shop for hair products, and she would go to certain beauty supply
Mm-hmm.
stores and this and that. But it was almost rare when you would go into like a large your run of the mill store and to be able to find products that are specifically made with you in mind. Fast forward,
Mm-hmm.
and Target makes this bold move to say, hey, I mean, you don't have to scrounge around town to find the latest and greatest. And actually, we'll introduce you to some of
Right.
the latest and greatest creators. And then I think the lack of acknowledgement for the pivot, I think, among other things, I think they've weathered a few storms, but
Yeah.
I think the trust factor among I'll just speak for the Black community because I'm a member of it. But I feel like the trust factor took a major hit. And yes, I think they're going to have a Black constituency that's always going to shop at Target. But I don't think the relationship in terms of being tapped into the culture is the same. It doesn't mean that it can't be repaired and can't be
Yeah.
worked on from a brand perspective, but I think that it's just different now. And I think that there's something to be said about if you're going to enter in or tap into a community and you're not fully bought into it, there is a price to pay for the exit. And I think that it's easy to jump on the bandwagon with something and adopt the hashtag or just jump
Mm-hmm.
in the flow. So with that said, how is it that you would advise even creators who
Mm-hmm.
might find themselves wanting to align with brands and they might find themselves at a crossroad because they're saying, well, it seemed like this was a good move in the beginning, but now I'm having to choose between, okay, well, I got to make money. I gotta do these brand deals. But at the same time, there might be a misalignment, not just culturally, but there might be misalignment in terms of expectations.
Yeah.
How should creators go about understanding that relationship with brands? And if, let's just say, there isn't alignment, how should they go about exiting those relationships without paying a penalty?
Yeah. It's such a complex conversation because, when you become more of like a paid collaborator with a brand, certain things shift and change, especially if you are a full-time creator and this is what you do for a living. It's like a parent working and, they hate their job, but they want to, and they want to leave, but technically they can't leave because they got obligations. Like, I understand that plight a lot, and it's very difficult to make decisions. And if you're not in those positions, you don't, and you don't have to deal with those things. It's easier for you to say, "Oh, just leave," or "Just do this," or whatever. Those two, Like one, I definitely want to hold grace for people that are trying to figure out what that exit looks like. For me, when it comes to working with the creators I want to work with, or even brands that I want to connect with and do certain things with, first, I'm really doing my research and I'm doing it down pat because in today's age, you never know who's giving their money to who's doing what to what have they done in the past. And so, one, I always vouch for creators to do their research before they reach out to any brand. A brand might look great on paper, they might look good in social, they might even partner with your favorite creators, but that doesn't mean you know what's happening on the back end. So, doing your research and learn about what the brand is doing first, and understanding what avenues they're taking. Talk with people that worked with them before. I Even when I'm interviewing, I talk to people um who I'm interviewing with, but I also talk to people outside of that as well. I need to know what your relationship is. And yes, do I go to some of the Black people first? Yes, because I got to know what's happening with my experience. Okay, I have to find that out first. But then, hey, other people can say one thing, and then you talk to that Black employee, and something else is happening. Okay, but I do my due
I'm
diligence on
crying.
purpose. You have to sometimes because like there's times when you feel like things are happening, and then when you talk to somebody, then you realize later like, oh, something is different, something has changed, or something internally is not it's not happening. But you're not gonna know that on the outside in. So it's always doing your due diligence and doing your research. But also though too, if you're already in this space and brands can say one thing to you and get you on board, and then like things change, and brands could be in the beginning supporting and care about this culture and things like that. And as we know, there's been layoffs, there's been things like that. That means new CEOs are coming in, new people are switching out. They might have a different idea. And honestly, that's where I thought what happened with Target, because Target, it kind of just came out of nowhere that they were like, oh, we're not supporting this no more. And I was like, since when? We also, there's things that have happened where like a lot of people on a higher level have left, or different ideas, or whoever has power now has changed, though too. So, it's a difficult thing, especially for black employees that were working there in retail and just in corporate. And I know they're doing their best, but I can't hold them responsible for making decisions for a brand that is making what so much more money that and they're not even in the rooms of making these decisions and choices. So it's about doing your due diligence, but understanding if you need to leave, then being professional about the leave, but also stating why. I think it's also important to be realistic and be honest. I'm leaving because of certain things are not aligned with where my brand is. I thank you for the time that we have had, uh, but this is now where I feel like that we might need to, depart. Also, just pay attention to your contract as well. When you're able to do that, what does your contracts look like? What do your usage rights look like? Um, if you need to put in your clause that I can separate at any time frame, do it, because that's going to be able to get you out of your thing. Sometimes it's hard for content creators to get out of contracts because, there are certain guidelines and legalities that are there, and something might happen in March, but you won't be able to get out until September. Certain things just happen. So I was just say, just be cautious of that. Pay attention to your do your research, do your due diligence, pay attention to the contracts that you have, and then when it's time to make that clean, break, make that clean break respectfully. But be honest about it as well.
Yeah. I one, you're such a wealth of knowledge. Like
Thank
I
you.
feel like we could be on this call all day. But I do want to pivot to I want to talk about the relationship between like new creators and approaching brands, because I feel like there is an expectation gap where uh sometimes as a new creator you might feel like, okay, I've got quality content, my metrics are metricing. Okay, we're on the rise. We're doing the thing. But because I haven't reached certain benchmarks, I may not be on the radar. Or even if I pitch, I might not be attractive to, let's just say, uh, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 company who's
Yeah.
doing brand campaigns or what have you. What should they be expecting in terms of benchmarks within their metrics to know, okay, I'm ready, number one, to be approached by a brand, but also I'm ready to pitch. And this is the value that I know that I can bring based
Yeah.
upon my following or based upon the base of support that I have online. Like, help negotiate that expectation for new creators.
Yeah. Um, that I think the crazy thing is that I don't think there's a number. Like there's no particular follower count. There's no particular type of like particular KPIs. I mean, I would definitely say like you need to have some type of reach, some type of impression, some type of um way of cultivating community to have conversations and comments and things like that. I think that's like a baseline. But like I don't think that's a particular number. Like you don't need to have 50 comments on every post. That's just not realistic. And then we're also living in a world of nano and micro creators as well, though too. So you can have 2,000 followers, but still be useful to a brand in a certain type of way. So my thing is that to throw all that out the window. Your metrics doesn't matter. It's good to have them to show them, but what you really want to do is show how you align with that brand and how that brand aligns with you. What is
Mm,
important to you? and how are you able to tap into what the brand is doing, or tap into something that you see the brand could be doing that they're not doing yet, but it still falls in line with what that brand guidelines are. And you're not going to know
Mhm.
exactly. You don't work in that brand, so you're speaking from the outside looking in. But again, if you know how to figure out how to cultivate community, how to really create original content that is authentic, it's gonna be easy for you to bring those things together. And if you bring something to them, they might have a different idea, but they can see your passion, they can see how you align. So speak out and start reaching out. I don't think there is any moment in time frame that you need to do it. I do think though you need to know who you are as a creator. You need to know what lane you want to own, or what lanes you feel like that you can own. What is the things that you want to start talking about, and start talking about it, and you have to start. You can't be like, I have 0 followers and I want to start working with this brand right now. You have nothing to show. But I do think that when you have already started doing it and you have some things to bring to the table, shoot your shot. Brands are looking for anyone that is, and right now people are looking for brand storytellers at the end of the day. If you know how to tell a story, even if you have the potential and you don't have the audience yet and someone sees that in you, they're going to want to find a way to work with you. I've done that plenty of times. I've saw somebody organic content. I'm like, oh, I got to write this person down because sooner or later they're going to blow up. And sooner or later they did. Even if I work with them or not, I'm watching and I'm still learning about who is out there. And brands are doing that. Influencer marketers are doing that. Community managers are watching what's on the platform. So reach out, start talking, do what you need to do, know what things you want to start talking about, see how it aligns with that brand, and shoot your shot. You never know what could happen. You can get free gifting, you can even get affiliate link. There's ways to start. You don't have to look at what the big creators are doing, or like, I just want a brand partnership and I need to get paid. Yeah, we all need to get paid. We all need to do something, but it's about starting and building that relationship. Start the relationship, build the relationship, show them what you can do, and then those things are going to continue to happen. And I think that also happens on the brand side. If I want to work with someone, I'm going to start building a relationship with them. I'm going to organically get them because I want them to know about our brand. Or if they already know about our brand, I want them to show that I'm paying attention to them. Oh, you used
Yeah.
us before? I'm about to send you this and this and this, and something on the side that you've never seen before as well. So I want to show them that I'm paying attention to you. And now we're continuing to build that relationship into something that can foster into a paid partnership, paid branding, us working together, you coming to my events, and now, you're able to create all this organic content and we're working together. You get perks from the brand that most people don't get. Like, that's how brands, typically work. That's how I've always created it. I just started talking and relating and creating content, and I got connected to certain brands that continue to send me products now. And on the flip side, I'll do the same thing with them. But, it's really about finding alignment and going for it, not about the follower count, not about this, not about that. It's, do you have the tenacity to do it? If you do, reach out.
Hmm. Speaking of reaching out, are there any reach outs to you that you felt like, oh my gosh, like this really caught my attention, like, or something that's really stuck with you with how a
Yeah.
particular creative reached out to you?
Um, I'm a naturally goofy person, as you can tell. So, like, if someone comes to me and something is funny and a joke, I'm like, oh, I love that. What else should I know? How can I get to know you more? But I'm always okay with a generic reach out as well, though. Creators don't know us, so if they're reaching out to us to partner with us and they're being strategic and professional, especially with Black creators who sometimes we are not always being chosen. I totally get it. I think it's making sure that you're showing some heart, showing your creativity and your authenticity through this as well. I think that really matters as well, though. Too. If you can tell your story through what you're reaching out for. Hey, my name is this. I've been talking about these things. I've gotten some notice in here and here and here. I'm trying to talk about this, and this is what I'm looking for to partner with you. Easy. And if things align and they make sense, then I'm going to reach out regardless. So, but I think it's always good if you can figure out who the person is and what the things that they like and things like that, and know how to like switch your angle up to really talk and relate to who that person is. I think that's always better as well though too. But I think these are things that we can learn from, like, even interviewing for a job. You're interviewing for a job and you know who you're supposed to talk with next. You do that research to understand who they are, what things have they done, what things have they talked about, and how you can relate that into your conversation. So I think it's all just like one giant interview of you presenting yourself for y'all to really build like connection and see like if it works or not.
Hmm. Now, one thing that I know, you are tapped in to what's happening on platform. So that means you're seeing advice about creators, the creator economy, influencer marketing, all the above. What is the worst advice that you are hearing that you're like, if I only had a microphone, I would tell people, please stop listening to this? What would you say?
Oh my God, that's a lot because there's a lot of things I hate that people say. But but one thing I'm not liking right now that I'm hearing people talk about is influencer marketing is dead because I think it's not. I think it's just evolving, and I think because a lot of marketers work in a world of absolutes, and I think that has been the biggest issue for a lot of people. You know, when something changes, they're like, okay, we got to be all in on this. All our eggs is on this now. We're forgetting this now. But I think that's not, technically true. I think influencer marketing is changing into something different that it didn't used to be before, and I think that's okay. It's still new, so it's still here. It's not dead. It's just shifting a bit. You know, when we have this growth of community-driven things and affiliate marketing and utilizing brand advocacy to like build more things, influencers are now becoming more of our spokespeople. They are becoming our VIP and clientele. You know, we see creators now at the Grammys that just happened. I think that's really cool and that's amazing. But now, they're being seen as symbols of voice and expertise instead of like people that are just creating content that can fill, your platforms and also spill, brand awareness and brand lore as well though too. And I think that those things are two different things. So, I think people are going in on community, but it doesn't mean that you have to leave what's happening in influencer marketing. It's just how you tap into it and how is it evolved and how does your brand evolve with it. So maybe it's less influencer partnerships. That's fine. Everyone doesn't need you don't need to pay 20 people 500K, but maybe it's fewer people to be utilized as your spokesman people and that can be tapped into every position. When I was at my old job, we had a global ambassador program of amazing doctors that created content against aesthetics and clinical skincare, and they came from all over the world. It wasn't that many of them; it was less than 10 people, and we are a large global brand that's in 37 like countries and markets. We don't need
Mhm.
37 people talking about the right people talking about the right things that can be utilized against all of our different channels. So not only just in our influencer sense, but they're being used in e-com, they're being used in retail, they're being used in marketing campaigns that can be utilized and pushed through paid media, or they can be used through sparking and boosting and whitelisting and all these different things. So, these are the people that are your faces, and then like your community are people that are filling your brand advocacy and brand love, and they're your word of mouth. They're your peers talking to another peer and building community in that space. So everything has its place, but I don't think it's dead. And I think it's misleading and disingenuous to say that it's dying when all it's doing is evolving and changing to something new. Now that we have more things that are happening within the creator economy, but yeah, that's just one thing though. I mean, I have a lot of other icks, but I'll save the podcast for that.
Look, y'all. First, before we go, I want to make sure I shout out Eric Ford. I found you on LinkedIn, but where are you most active? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I yap a lot on LinkedIn. So I am there, so you can find me there at Eric Ford. Also have Instagram, so you can follow me at Ranger_up. I'm a huge Power Ranger fanatic, so if you know who I am, you'll see it all there. But that's normally the biggest spaces that I'm on at the moment in time frame to find me.
So, last question. I really want to know for you, because I would say, I would not be surprised if you headed for like a huge career pivot at some point, because I feel like your transferable skills, like you could do anything. And so I'm curious to know, like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, 10 years? And I think I got one more question about legacy after you answer that question.
Yeah, you're right. I do have a lot of transferable skills. I worked in a few different industries, like in media and entertainment. I worked in fashion, in beauty. There's different things that have happened, but and throughout the same skills that have been transferable through all these things. I think in the next 5 years, I like working in corporate America. I definitely don't see myself being DIY. I call it freelance DIY because it's you got to do it yourself. I learned from experience DIYing is not for me, but I think in corporate America, I definitely am reaching for to be either a CMO, so a chief marketing officer one day, or a chief communications officer, just because of the skills that I have and the things that I see. I think I have a unique and fresh approach to marketing what things look like, and those are spaces I want to be in because also think that there are spaces of impact internally and externally. My job is not only just to be known as an expert, but it's also to be able to create pipelines for people that look like us and to bring them along on for the journey, especially being from Houston, Texas. There's not a lot of us that are in these spaces coming from HBCUs and all that. So, like, I want to be in a position of power so I can create impact, not only for our consumers, but, like, for people to look like me to be in the spaces that I'm in now as well. So, yeah.
Mm. So, and that I feel like you kind of leaned into it. So, what do you feel like? Because we're sitting in 2026, and it seems like, I mean, it's February 3rd today when we're recording this. And I think Black history, growing up, there was so much that felt like there was, I mean, people, yes, they laid their lives down literally for the cause to advance civil rights for Black Americans. But it seems like there is now a cultural advancement that is necessary for people. And it just looks different. It feels like it looks different. It feels different. It does not feel passive anymore. I don't know if you feel the same way. And so I wonder, like, what does Black excellence, what does legacy look like for creators and creatives who look like us, who are, because I don't think that just advancing Black excellence or Black history means that you are Black and Black alone. I think it means just being tapped into who you are and taking that wherever that leads you. At least that's, I guess, my definition of it. But I'm curious for you, like, what do you see the legacy of someone like you? Like, if you reach that CMO spot, if you reach whatever you're envisioning in the next 5 years, 10 years, what do you feel like your legacy? What do you want it to be? And if you could like paint a picture of what it looks like what would it be?
Yeah. Um, I want to be someone that shows that professionalism doesn't have to look in a certain type of way. I've learned even being at these bigger brands that there's so much work politics that are involved in. I get why certain things are the way they are, but it's just not the type of person that I am. Like I love working in a corporate environment, but I don't want to be stuffy. I don't want to be a cog. I don't want to transform and like convert myself to what the company is. I want to be in a space that we're cultivating spaces for people to be who they truly are because I think that's how you produce the best outcomes available. And so that is always want to be my legacy. People tapping into who they are and utilizing that to do whatever they want to do, whether it is in freelance or contracting or in the corporate world. You have to find a way to make these things work for you. Even with people who just want to work just to work and then they want to fuel anything that they got to going on, I feel like they should have the option to do that. And what does that look like? And we shouldn't have to be, um, we don't have to, shouldn't have to keep our mouths closed to live a life that we want to live or be the things that we want to be. So for me, that is going to be my legacy, and I think it's already been that helping people find who they are, seeing white spaces that they've never seen before, having the real conversations that people are not willing to have, and being a yapper about it, and honestly, just not giving an F. I don't want to curse because I'm actually an active cursor, but
You did
that is
really good. Then you did
yeah.
good.
I did really well. I mean that is also part of my legacy, but it's also because like I don't mind calling out BS when BS is there. It's never my thing to allow things to be what they are. I think when we continue to allow things to be what they are and to tiptoe around stuff, I feel like that you are also a part of the problem. And I never want to be a part of a problem. I always want to be a part of a solution or someone that's adding something to a conversation that's going to not only advance it but provide new perspectives as well though too. So that's always my that's always the thing that I want to tell people. But I want that to be my legacy as well. Someone that did not care about your rules or your regulations or how I need to be in this world. I'm gonna be who I want to be. I'm gonna make it who I want to be because it's already been working. And me being myself has gotten me to the places that I want to be. I'm not gonna stop now. And I want you to stop either. So that's the nice way I'll say
Yes.
of me saying that.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of Convo Room. I'm so grateful for Eric Ford for coming through. And look, You can find us on, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, on everywhere you can find me. Mostly active on LinkedIn these days because I think that's where my community is, and I'm just building as many relationships as I can. And I'm so glad that Eric is a new friend to the show. Man, I appreciate you so much for coming through. You're welcome back anytime to yap as much as you want to.
I love
And we'll
that.
bring the bleep button if you're
Oh,
feeling froggy and ready to leave.
I'll definitely let you know for sure.
Yes. All right, man. Thanks so much.
All right.